Hey, what's going on, friends? Pete here with MixBetterNow.com and LearningToMix.com, and we are checking out, crazily enough, another Distressor plugin, this time from the good folks at Empirical Labs and Universal Audio. From what I understand, Dave Durr and the crew over at Empirical Labs essentially gave Universal Audio the exclusive thumbs up to work in conjunction with them to model the EL8, part for part. They went through one of Dave's golden Distressor units and literally ripped it apart and, did the whole shebang, all the stuff that the little magicians at Universal Audio do. So we're going to check it out, okay? I'm not going to compare it to other stuff in here. Maybe I'll save that for another video. I don't really want it to be like, oh, this sounds like this and this sounds like this. And we're just going to take a look at it. We'll check out the features. I mean, they really are, exactly what you'll find on a Distressor. But nonetheless, we'll dive into it. We'll check it out. We'll see what it sounds like. And we'll put it through its paces. So without further ado, let's jump on in and check this bad boy out. All right, so this is a completely unmixed session. There is really nothing going on here. Just to show you that, of course, I have the Distressor open on the screen here, but you'll see some of the virtual mix racks on the tracks, and I just would like to click on it and show you that we're not doing anything really with these, okay? I'm just using it for the VCC and the trim tool, just to give it like a little bit of cohesiveness, if you will. I've got one of these on the drum bus, okay? So we're going to listen to how it sounds on some drums, on bass, maybe on some acoustic guitars, some electric guitars. And then I also have one over here on the mix bus because we have this wonderful 2-to-1 ratio. The only other thing I would just like to point out here, let me click this off, is I have a couple things on the mix bus just to kind of glue it because there's really nothing done. I mean, everything is pretty much 100% raw and unmixed, okay? So there's no EQ, there's no compression on anything, and that's very specifically done because I feel like if I were to use a mixed session, then you would not be able to really hear what the compression's doing to the raw audio file, so hence why we're doing this. So anyway, on the mix bus, I've just got the VCC. I have a UAD SSL G-Bus compressor set up, which is something I'll commonly use. All right, so then I have the Distressor pulled in right here, which is off at the moment. VBC is following that, just using this for some color, no compression. The Slate virtual tape machine, and then I've got the Oxford limiter here on the end, okay? So what we're going to do is we'll just listen to it right now. We'll play this from the first verse here. All right, so as you guys can hear, it is in a very raw state, but like I said, I specifically wanted to use raw audio so that you can really hear what the compression does, instead of having something fully mixed and then swapping out something like my drum bus compressor, and then it's like, it's really tough to hear, to know if you're hearing EQ, harmonic sweetening, compression, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and check this out on the drums right now. They are 100% raw. I was bypassing this in and out. We could do this by just clicking on this button right here. I like doing that just because it kind of turns the lights off and you know where it's at. So if we keep this off right now, this is what the drums sound like. Okay, so, you know, pretty good sounding drums. We got drums, bass, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, and we got like a B3 going on, okay? So look, controls, very simple. I don't want to dive too far deep into the controls of the Distressor. I know most of you guys are familiar with what it does. You've got your multiple ratios right here, okay? We have our gain reduction meter up here. We have our sort of our warmth indicators, if you will, right here, indicating X amount of total harmonic distortion. You've got your red line up here in case you are in fact clipping. And then we have literally a smorgasbord of different types of sidechain filters and effects over here. All types of combinations that we can get by going through and, you know, clicking on stuff. You know, high pass filters, you know, mid bands, you can link and unlink everything. And then what's really cool is, you know, we can basically, you know, choose to add a little bit of extra second or third order harmonic, depending on distortion 2 or 3. 2 would be a little bit more of like a tube flavor, and 3 would be a little bit more akin to tape. So there's a bypass knob right in the middle here, just another way you can pull the plug-in in and out. And then 2 really cool things that Universal Audio has added here to the you know, to the analog piece is a dry wet knob. Okay, so we can go all the way dry or all the way wet, anywhere in between. And then we also have a headroom control. You'll find both of these things on the majority of UAD plugins, or a lot of the newer ones. They've implemented these, okay? Moving along, input and output. So it's very akin to an 1176, where the more compression you want, you know, the more input you would turn up. So it's like a fixed threshold. And then you've got your attack and release. 10 is the slowest, and 0 would be the fastest, I believe. And what's cool is you can get different types of flavors of compression. So you can basically get like an optical thing going on. I'll show you that in a little bit. If you set the attack to 10, set the release to 0, and then you set this ratio 10:1, okay? You can also use it as a color box. So if you bring it onto a track and you change the, or turn the ratio off basically at 1:1, you're going to get a little bit of warmth and saturation, fatness, all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do, we've got a bunch of cool presets here from folks such as Joe Ciccarelli, Vance Powell, Chris Zane, you know, Jakir King. Okay, so lots of cool stuff. So let's just start with something, and then what I'll do is I'll dial in sort of how I would dial in a drum bus and just show you what that sounds like. So let's pick a drum preset of some type. We can do, oh, I don't know, giant drum room. Let's just give this a shot, see what this sounds like. All right, so as you guys can tell, it's pretty extreme. So what I'm going to do is we'll flip this guy back on. I'm going to go to 100% compression here. And something that I would commonly do on my drum bus is usually like a 4:1 ratio, sometimes a 3:1 ratio. We're going to turn this off for now. We'll turn these guys off, okay? So we'll leave these bare bones. And let's dial in something like a slower attack and a faster release. Now, we don't have an exact time on these, okay? It's just realizing that 10 is slow and 0 is fast. And the more input, right, the more compression. Check it out. Okay, so as you can see from the kick hitting, low end frequencies really do stimulate compressors, sending them into compression a whole lot faster than stuff like your high end, like your mid range. So what's cool is we can hit this and let some of the lows through. Pay attention to the meter here. Some of the kicks we were getting up to around 6 or 7 on the peaks. Let's see what this does. So it's kind of cool. We can let the kick sort of get through and do its thing. We can also bring this in and add some of these even or odd order harmonics to sort of spice up our sound a little bit. Okay, so as you guys can hear there, right, it's warming it up a little bit, and it's also adding some very, very nice sustain to the snare drum and also to the kick drum. Just very, very cool. Let's try and find something that would be in parallel here. So, I don't know, extra punch on the drums. Let's try using some of this here to maybe get a little bit of parallel compression happening. Okay, let's move this to a chorus. All right, so you guys can really hear what it's doing there on the drums. And look, what's cool about the Distressor is it sounds good on just about everything. So you can certainly use this on your kicks, on your snares. I am just using this on the on my drum level right now just because it gives you an overall picture. But let's check out what this does to the bass when we go ahead and sort of set this up to the optical setting. All right, guys, so I basically left the Distressor on the drum bus there, so you're going to get a little bit of that flavor with that. But what we're going to do on the bass now is I want to show you a very cool sort of feature that maybe you wouldn't know is available on the Distressor, but it's this optical setting that we can get. But you kind of have to dial it in a specific way. You can see opto right here, opto, and then opto below the 10-to-1. So basically what you have to do is set up the attack to 10, which is the slowest, the release to 0, which is the fastest, and then go with a 10-to-1 ratio here. And then you can dial in your compression to sort of get a little bit of that optical tube compression sound going on with the bass. Check it out. It's just drum and bass. We're going to go from the second verse. All right, so it's very cool that out of basically like a VCA style compressor, we can really get that opto flavor going on, which is useful on many things, not just bass, but can also sound great on something like vocals. All right, so just to close this out, I kind of wanted to show you what it sounds like actually on the mix bus. Now, I know maybe the distressor isn't necessarily equated to getting a lot of use on something like the 2-bus, but with the implementation of the 2-to-1 ratio on the distressor, I think it absolutely works, and it can sound really nice. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll leave this guy open here, and I'll show you the compressor that I currently have on there. Just move this up a little bit. And, you know, a very common 2-bus setting for me will be something like a 2-to-1 ratio, a 10 or a 30 millisecond attack, and then something maybe like a 100 millisecond release. Sometimes I'll use the auto feature here on the SSL. I often use the API 2500 a lot, but real quick, I'll show you what this is doing. So we've got drums in, bass, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and B3. Sounds like this. So we're doing anywhere from 0 to 2 dB of compression on the SSL. So we'll turn this guy off, we'll get it out of here, and then what we'll do is I'm going to try and basically just emulate something similar on the distressor so you can hear what it sounds like, and then you can sort of figure out if it's something that you would dig using on your 2-bus or not. I'll just zero this out real quick and make sure that it is as it would be if you opened it on here. So I'm going to go 2-to-1 ratio. We'll back this off a little bit as well as the output, and then I'm going to leave all these things alone. And then for the attack time, I'm going to slow it up quite a bit. So we'll go to something like 9, and then for the release, we'll try something around like 3.5. So something that I'm just noticing is that just how transparent it really can be. You know, I really like to, depending on what the song is, I like to use transparent compression on my 2-bus. Sometimes I like to get very vibey compression and audible compression on my 2-bus. And what's cool about the distressor is it really fulfills both, okay? In this instance, with a 2-to-1 ratio, slow attack, and a medium style release, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3 dB of compression sounds great on here. And then what's cool is that we were also lighting up this 1% total harmonic distortion light. So that means that we were really kind of adding some even and odd order harmonics to our overall sound, our overall tone. So it's just a very versatile compressor, in my opinion, that really is going to sound awesome on whatever you put it on. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, but instead of being a Swiss Army knife, it's really good at each of the things that it does. All right, guys, so that's it for me. This has been a little quick overview of the UAD and Empirical Labs EL8 Distressor, fresh off the shelf. Okay, very excited about this. You guys can, of course, check this out on a fully functioning 14-day demo if you've got a UAD rig. You know, but my overall impression of this is it's very good, but you know, if you guys have something, for example, like the Empirical Labs Arouser, and you might not have a UAD rig, or you know, if you have the FG Stress from Slate, I wouldn't sweat it too hard. This, for example, like this probably isn't something that, you know, I'm itching to go out and buy. Now, if I did not own the Arouser, you know, maybe it'd be a different story then. But it's just cool that there's different options out there, and you could sort of figure out whatever works for you and for your budget. As always, guys, I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will catch you next time.